Welcome back to Beyond the Veil Tarot and Astrology. My name is Candice Marie. Thanks for joining me. Coming at you guys with another video. It's that time again. We have got a full moon on the horizon. Yeah, kind of excited to see how this one plays out. Obviously, we're about a week or so out before it hits. But this one is going to be a little dramatic, a little complex. So we're going to be breaking down some of the aspects of this full moon in Leo, talking about why it's so electric and how it's going to affect each and every one of the 12 signs. If you're not already subscribed to my channel, make sure you hit the button below so you're alerted as to when I have new videos coming out. We have videos coming out every couple days. We have donation-based readings on Friday nights. We're also doing Sunday reports for the astro weather, new full moons, and if you're lucky, sometimes you're gonna catch a little bit more stuff in between. But yeah, let's go ahead and jump into it and see what's going on with this full moon. So it's going to be hitting on February 5th, 2023. This will be at 10:28 a.m. Pacific time, 1:28 p.m. Eastern time. But obviously I know we got people kind of all over the globe, so adjust your time zones depending on where you are. And let's go ahead and break this down. So full moon in the sign of Leo, right here, 16 degrees. So if you have any personal planets around, let's say 15 to 17 degrees of Leo, sun, moon, rising, or maybe a personal planet, this is going to be very impactful for you, so pay attention. Equally, those of you guys who are fixed rising signs, right? Any of the fixed rising signs, so Taurus, as well as Scorpio and Aquarius, you guys also are going to feel this crunch because we're actually going to see the full moon happen with a fixed T-square. Now, full moons, right? We have them once a month. It is that kind of climax point. We have been building towards this really since we planted seeds in the summer of 2022 during the new moon in Leo. Now, this is also one of several full moons that we are having at 16 degrees. If you guys take a look at the last few, we will have several of them. So it's really reinforcing that 16-degree type energy. And the theme of this moon, I think, is bring on the drama. A little bit of adding fuel to the fire, but you know, whatever. But it's gonna be quite dramatic given some of the aspects of this moon. Now, it is at 16 degrees, so that is an energy that is associated also with the sign of Cancer. So emotions, feelings, homes, privacy, also our roots, things that are kind of going on domestically speaking. So that may bring about some of the friction or some of the drama. And Leo in general, fixed fire energy, right? So fire burns, it purifies, it gives life, it's exciting, it has that real zest for life. I think having it in a fixed sign and also seeing like this fixed T-square show up, for some of us is going to feel like, okay, well that happened, now what? There may be situations that come to like a climax that force our hand in some situations to bring about dramatic endings, right? And so it's not going to play out like that for everybody, but definitely the fixed signs are really what I'm focusing on because I think it's gonna impact you guys very much that way. Leo in general, younger people, creatives. This can also be about artists, performers. But Leo is about kind of leading with your heart, right? This is a sign that's traditionally associated with the sun. So this is one of those situations, as you guys know, during February, when we're in the midst of Aquarius season, we always have that full moon that's going to be in Leo. And this is one of the rare occasions that we don't just look at the moon, we also look at the sun. So the sun being here, the moon being here, 16 degrees, the sun being here, 16 degrees, that exact 180-degree opposition is what brings the full moon for us. And because the sun is the traditional ruler of the sign of Leo, we look at what's going on with the sun. All right, so the sun in Aquarius is in its fall, meaning it's not as comfortable in that energy. We know that Uranian energy is about rebelling, pushing back, doing things different, kind of challenging the status quo, even if that means we go our own way. So seeing the sun and the moon in opposition naturally every month manifests as this energy where there is this heightened sense of opposition, right? We see that, which can be about confrontation. It can be about dealing with other people. And it's really highlighting these two particular placements, but it gets a little bit deeper. If we look at the ruler of the sun, it is Uranus. And so what we call with this aspect where you have an opposition and also a square is a fixed T-square. You guys know the fixed T-square. We've seen it for the last 2 years. Saturn and Uranus have been duking it out with this hard 90-degree angle to each other, really asking us, do we get in line, do we join the system, or do we break free and do we do something strange, abstract, and unusual? And how will it affect our physical reality, right? So Taurus is things like your bank account, your food, your comfort, your security, literally the ground and the earth that you are sitting or standing upon. So this full moon to me feels like rocks and rattles and rolls. Could be literally. We have seen in some situations where there's some hard angled aspects to Uranus that it's not unusual that it can produce natural disasters, specifically earthquakes, and possibly even we might see some other tremors. We might also see issues in regards to electricity. And I'm going to take you guys, I'm going to do another video. You're going to see this on Thursday where I'm going to focus more on the Sun square Uranus aspect that happens just before this full moon. But likely you're going to see this building in the days leading up to this. So like the 2nd, the 3rd, the 4th, you'll start feeling the full moon energy coming in because the Sun will square Uranus before it has the full moon apex. But basically it's not just the full moon, okay? It's the moon in opposition to the sun. We've got the moon that's in the opening square to Uranus. So it's basically saying the drama, right? The drama that we all go through together, moon in Leo. As a result of adjusting, the square is about adjustment in regards to shifts that are happening within the heart space, shifts that are happening for us creatively, shifts that are happening for us within our love life, with our children. So these are all like Leo related things. And squares in general, they're aspects that create pressure, and squares involving Uranus is stress. Stress to the nervous system, stress to the banking system, stress to the planet. And so I know that a lot of this sounds kind of like doom and gloom, but a lot of you guys may find that this is the turning point. Keep in mind, right? We are halfway between eclipse season. So we had eclipses that were in the fall of 2022. We saw eclipses come in Taurus as well as Scorpio. Definitely encouraging us to really focus on releasing, letting go, not letting fear run the show, not having a fearful kind of mentality of scarcity and not having enough, or how we look at death and regeneration. And eclipses with the North Node in Taurus have been focusing on growth, life, physical shifts, and also in regards to our resources. In recent years, when we've seen some of these squares, it has always been very interesting times, usually right around January, February, the beginning of the year, where there has been major earthquakes that have gone on in the financial system. So I think that just the sun coming through the square with Uranus, yes, that might be a day where there's like an anything goes type of vibe, but the sun is actually placed smack dab in between Saturn and Aquarius, moving into the late degrees, where we're really going to see the finale of what the Saturn and Aquarius lesson has been these last 2.5 years, where we have had to deal with isolation, separation, and also adapting, right, as a whole, groups adapting to limits. And we see the sun that's also smack dab in between Pluto. So it's real close here to the Saturn-Pluto midpoint, right? Pluto, power, control, manipulation, destruction, breakdowns, but also breakthroughs. So this very full moon is going to start to show us some of the cracks that are appearing and some of the emotions that may kind of rise up in terms of a collective in regards to what systems are breaking down within our world, what physical things are breaking down, right? So I think it's really going to be very much in regards to like information about cancer related things. Even though the moon is in Leo, it is at a 14, it is at a 16. So it's going to relate back to foundational breakdowns, breakdowns that are going on within society, perhaps things connected to the housing market, Also just families where they're kind of like looking at things going like, oh my goodness, you know, the food bill. I don't even know what eggs are running in most cities right now, but I could see with the square to Uranus and also the sun square Uranus that we're going to start hearing from Aquarius type groups, committees, panels. We're going to start hearing more from political groups, political heads, major tech companies, something in regards to, hey, this is what we're putting out, just so you guys know, or these are the changes that we're actually going to be making, and this is how it's going to be affecting the banks, the bond market, the stock market. Ay, ay, ay. So we're halfway through the eclipses. This is that turning point where whatever was seeded during the solar eclipse in Scorpio is now unfolding, right? Because we're 4 signs from Scorpio, very much a Cancer energy, which is the ends of some situations. It also is about our emotions, our feelings, and our private life. But we're also halfway to the new solar eclipse that will be taking place in April, that will be ushered in actually at 29 degrees of Aries. So guys, this is a big turning point. And I think that it's not just the full moon. It keeps going back to structure versus rebellion, you know, limitations versus freedom. I think you're going to hear a lot about crypto. It's just, it is what it is because it's so strongly tied to the Uranus square. I think you're also going to hear about new financial things that are coming up in regards to the tech industry. Obviously, everybody's been just like totally talking about all these new AI technologies, how it's changing the markets, how it's changing the business markets, how it's changing big tech, and whether or not they're putting more money into it, whether or not they're letting go of employees, unfortunately. I also feel like this is possibly going to be how this is affecting artists, right? How this is affecting performers, people who make money making art or performing for a living, or as an individual who may be sharing with groups. Perhaps the future is going to be less of actual real physical YouTubers, and you're going to start seeing like AI created, you know, type influencers. I mean, I think that unfortunately is probably going to be what's going on in the future. I wonder how that's going to branch into other subscription services because Aquarius does deal with groups, and whether or not we're going to see a real uprise from Leo related people. Leo does rule drama, right? It rules drama, romance, having fun, taking chances. And this is one of those moons that I would say it's probably not a good idea to be stirring the pot, okay? You're gonna see it happen somewhere in your life, or you're gonna see it happen somewhere out in the world, and you can observe, but I would say be very careful with stirring the pot because it is likely to create some wounds, especially because the moon is going to make trines to Chiron. So we talked about how the ruler is connected to the sun. We talked about the sun-Uranus square. I want to read to you guys the 16 degrees, the Sabian symbol. So we're actually going to round up because it's 16 degrees and 40 minutes. So we're going to read 17 degrees of Leo just to get a little bit more food for thought in terms of how this might be playing out. Everybody always asks me about this book. You guys can find my Amazon book list in the links below. This is the Sabian Symbols. If you have it, it's going to be page 166. All right, so we've got Leo 17, a non-vested church choir. The keyword is communion. The theme is cooperation. The theme speaks to the value of informal or unregimented group experience in learning cooperation and respect for personality. The image of a non-vested church choir alludes to the fellowship and sense of community. The suggestion here is group functioning in the absence of official rules and regulations, is an exercise in learning self-discipline and respect for rights, contributions, and idiosyncrasies of others. At its highest, the symbol represents joy in working with others to share a common passion, watch for competitiveness or attempts to curry favor by telling others what they want to hear. The accent is on volunteerism and informal group activities. Your greatest advantage lies in learning to respect and appreciate difference. Praise others for the efforts they make to see what happens. Guard against trying to make yourself look more important than others by doing things to stand out or deliberately calling attention to yourself. The attention you get may not be what you had in mind. Stepping stones would be community, fellowship, cooperation, harmony, friendship, rapport, volunteerism, group experience, respect for personality. A non-vested church choir. It's interesting that the theme is cooperation. And I think that you will see more of a push for cooperation, especially as we see the sun start to kind of reach Saturn in the later degrees. Obviously, the moon in opposition to the sun is that we may see some lack of cooperation on an individual level that is being requested by superiors or by those who are kind of in charge, whatever, with the Sun-Saturn stuff building. Equally, I could see this square to Uranus as people being like, look, if you do not comply or if you do not go along with what we are requesting for everybody, there is going to be either physical or financial consequences. I could see that being the case of people kind of being like, well, if we're going along with that, what if we don't want to do that? Well, here's the repercussion. Or if you want to belong to a certain group, if you want to participate in a certain whatever, right? Then you're going to have to be willing to make some sacrifices. That's kind of the vibe that I'm getting looking at this, to be honest with you. It's not a bad Sabian symbol. I like that it's connected to informal group activities. Obviously, the sun is in Aquarius, right? The moon is in Leo. So we're going to have people on an individual level, kind of like little kindergartners with ants in their pants, and like everybody wants to be the one who like jumps up and shares something and nobody really wants to wait. And so there is that aspect of what you bring on an individual level to the group to be able to kind of help that group kind of move forward, what you give back. But I really feel like the square is really what's going to throw people off, and people are kind of going to go, we don't all want to go along with what physical changes are being made. We don't all want to go along with what financial changes are being implemented. I'm looking at banks and what's going on with the banking stuff, because I think that's really what this is going to be about. I'm also a little cautious because I can see as the Sun-Saturn conjunction is approaching, we are going to hear more about some of these limitations and things that are being kind of dictated or controlled. It's about boundaries that are going to be coming about what we have access to or what we are able to actually have in a sense of freedom, right? So sacrifices that we're making for the group incentive, basically. Once again, still, it's not terrible. I just think that not everybody is going to agree with what is being put on the agenda. I hate to say that. And, you know, how it's playing out in the world may be very different than how it's playing out for your life, right? I mean, on a personal level, especially if you're somebody who's got a lot of planets in fire signs that are going to be somewhere around, you know, that 14 to 18 degrees, Aries, Leo, Sag, it might be great for you. It doesn't necessarily have to be challenging. I want you guys to think back to what's been going on in regards to the Saturn-Uranus square, because this has been going on off and on since 2021. As a reference point also, you may want to think about what was going on for you while the sun was just recently in the sign of Leo this last summer. So as planets went through those degrees, what was happening for you, right? We had the sun and Mercury and yeah, I think the sun, Mercury, and at some point Venus was all going through here, right? So think back to summertime. I can remember in 2022, one of the big transits that we had was when we saw planets come into Leo, and it was squaring that north node Uranus in Taurus. So it's kind of hard to like miss, especially in this last year as we had planets go through Leo. It was creating a grand fixed cross, including the nodes. So actually, let me just show you so that way you guys can see when this was happening. So let's go back in time. So I'm thinking like, yeah, and the Mars North Node Uranus conjunction was happening. I was like, something else was going on over the summer that was like, holy cow. Okay, so you want to take this back to like the new moon that we had in Leo. So we had a new moon. It wasn't an exact square to Uranus, but it was by sign around the end of July. And then what I'm really looking at is when the sun started coming into an opposition with Saturn and a square with the nodes. So you're going to see similar pressure as August 9th through roundabout, let's say, August 12th. So make a note of those dates. It'll feel very similar in terms of that. Very much so, actually, because we did have a full moon in Aquarius with the moon conjunct Saturn in opposition to the sun. So yeah, look at the first half of August as kind of like an idea of what was going on then. Obviously, it's different because we had the sun and Venus in Leo, so it was a little bit more creative, a little bit more passionate, really liking the fact that we had aspects that were trining out also to Jupiter and Chiron. So we were healing ourselves through perhaps really embracing creative, authentic, dramatic, responses and versions of ourselves. This was much more about the individual versus the hive mind. Now it's like flip-flop. Now it's like, well, it's about other people. It's not really so much about what you think. And so there can be this sense of going, that's not really setting right with me. I don't really feel like I can share or I can express or I can be creative. I think you're going to hear a lot of creatives complain about this feeling like they're not being given freedom, or that there's going to be financial implications if they do not agree to whatever the new terms are. I wonder, like, is it going to be people who are having issues with YouTube, going in and seeing that certain content creators are feeling limited and that they may be demonetized? As much as I hate to say that, I think we're going to see that as something that will continue to keep happening, which a full moon like this may push individuals to be like, I'm willing to break free and move to new groups or move to new platforms if I feel like I'm going to be limited. Now, you may not be a YouTube creator, right? But you might decide, I'm done with my bank. I want to invest in something else, or I want to hold cash, or I want to go to a credit union, right? So there can be some real financial, physical decisions that are made as a result of some of the drama that's going to be kind of coming up. And I do think, kind of building off of like the church choir, we're going to hear a lot of feedback from committees. But I'm wondering, like, are we going to be hearing from enough individuals, right? Keep in mind, Uranus is at the center of this full moon, and it's the one that's causing a lot of problems. Now, some themes that I would say that you guys want to watch for can literally be emotional meltdowns. I don't like saying that, but that's the feeling that I'm getting with that really kind of active, dramatic moon that's going to be in Leo. I also get the impression that as this continues to build, even in the beginning of February, some of the events that are taking place as a result of this full moon, we will then start to see Mercury come into conjunction with Pluto. And it can be that definitive breaking point that's like, that's it, I'm done. There's no moving forward with this. There's no accepting this, or I can no longer tolerate this. And you may find that you're communicating in that way. Obviously, it might take until closer to that conjunction, February 9th, February 10th, but it feels definitive to me. All of that is happening also, 12th house to all of this Aquarius stuff. So what many of us don't realize is that when it comes to financial and banking institutions, when this is also coming to big government decisions, there are things that are being decided upon right now that we can't see yet. It's not visible yet. It will become more visible as to what's been getting worked out here recently behind the scenes once we have this conjunction a couple days after that full moon. What's interesting is if we push this ahead a little bit, and Mercury moves into Aquarius, and then the sun is coming into conjunction with Saturn, likely we're going to be finding out, and I said this in a previous video, mid-February, that there are some new limitations that are coming out in the world, February 18th, 19th, 20th, especially as we see Saturn in the late degrees. So right now is such an important time, I think, to embrace whatever emotions are coming up as a result of the full moon, where the breakdown is happening. Is it happening because you're resisting change? Is it happening because you're realizing that it's important to step away from certain groups or certain group incentives to be able to better kind of protect and honor your true inner self, right? Because that opposition to me feels very much like having to go your own way, even if that means you're having to be alone, even if that means you have to make physical or financial sacrifices. just being somebody who's a content creator, something I've noticed that's been happening recently, and it's a lot of the videos that I've been watching on YouTube, is I've seen a lot of content creators coming out recently now that narratives are changing out in the media, basically saying, I was cast out. You know, I had opinions and I had beliefs that differed from my friends, that differed from my family, regardless of what it was. It doesn't matter. It's not any one particular topic. But that's what this energy feels like to me, that some of us are going to be finding that our way of being able to creatively express ourselves and be able to be finding our platform outside of feeling like we're just thrown into or jumbled into groups of other people is being like, look, I already made the jump, you know? So people who have already made some of these segues in recent months in terms of, you know, changing platforms, changing jobs, changing political affiliations. It doesn't matter what you've changed. If you felt like you were ostracized in any way, you're already kind of like ahead of the curve. So when this particular full moon hits, I think you're going to hear a lot of people complaining, being like, oh my goodness, I can't believe this thing is happening. And like, I didn't choose this. You know, what are we going to do? Why didn't you tell me? And you're going to see individuals who have been kind of cast out in society kind of go, we told you this. We told you this was coming. I already made the sacrifices because I felt like my friends, my family, my employer, whatever, my hometown didn't agree with what I was preaching or what I was believing in. I think it's going to be a full moon that's going to bring a rude awakening for a lot of people. I don't like to say that, but it is going to be quite dramatic. Now, the people who are going to be feeling this the most, like I said, 15 to 17 degrees of the fixed signs, especially rising signs. You guys know I'm a Western astrologer. I work with whole sign charts, and I always recommend that you listen to your ascendant because it's going to give you the most information. So 15 to 17 degrees of the fixed signs, you are going to feel this the most. Yes, it's going to really affect Leo, but it's like I look at Leo, Aquarius, and also Taurus, and it's just, you guys are all going to get hit. If you're somebody who has a lot of Scorpio within those degrees as well, get ready for a grand fixed cross, which will bring change. That's the good news with these full moons. It'll put so much pressure that it's just asking you to turn the wheel of your chart and really kind of break through something, but you may feel like you're in a moment where you're like, oh my God, all these things are kind of like imploding. 15 to 17 degrees, Aries and Sagittarius, you guys are going to dig this. You're going to have trines, so there is a release point for you. You're going to see that as planets that you have within those two signs are trining the full moon and possibly even Jupiter and Chiron, especially if you're a Sag. This will be a nice release point for you. And if you have 15 to 17 degrees of the air signs, so if you have Gemini or Libra around those degrees, you'll experience a sextile, air and fire. They're BFFs, right? They fuel one another. For those of you guys who are water and earth signs, it's not that it's not important. It's just not going to be as activated in your chart. That's pretty much it. I'm gonna touch on some of the other aspects with the Sun Uranus square in my next video, but I think kind of the big thing is just prepare for something shocking to be happening either in your world or out in the world. The information or the news may spread very quickly. We want to avert from having chaos if we can. We want to try also to de-escalate what can feel like rushed or quick decisions, snap decisions, because that can also kind of come up with the Uranus square. We want to watch also for there to be some breakthrough information that is surfacing. Okay, Mercury is finally getting into the degrees where it stopped short when it had its retrograde of coming into conjunction with Pluto. So there's been some information that's been withheld, and Capricorn can be about timing. It can be about business. It can also be about numbers, anything in regards to also, people who are in charge. So CEOs, bosses, people out in society. I'm assuming because this is in Capricorn, we're going to hear more about some of these unfortunate issues with like police brutality, either information, documents, interviews, footage, things that have been held back that are also going to be released. but also exposés and things that are going to drop that has been about things that have been in hiding. And once that starts to come out after that full moon, as we go into the next lunation, which will be a new moon in Pisces, we'll have that new moon and there's going to be a ton of planets there, and then Saturn is going to move in and we're going to feel like something's getting locked down, something's getting shut down, something is being hidden. Yeah, it's gonna be a doozy, but thankfully, right, we have Saturn leaving soon. Thankfully, we're also going to be seeing the North Node moving away from Uranus. So actually, this is one of the last real aspects. I mean, we're going to see the Mercury square Uranus next, but this is one of the last real Uranus type Saturnian squares for a while, until we get to, you know, closer to 2024 and we see Jupiter and Uranus come into conjunction. This is the last one, and I think this is the one that's going to count. Because it may represent this tug of war that you have been having, where there's been this unwillingness to break free in a certain area of your life. There's been this unwillingness to listen to what your heart is saying, or listen to what your inner child is saying, or listening to that voice inside that says, go your own way, take a chance, right? Leo is also about gambling. It's about self-employment. It's about doing things where there is no guarantee, right? For the sake of pleasure. So we may find that some people are going, absolutely not. I'm not going to scale back, or I'm not going to be okay with limited withdrawals, or I'm not going to be okay with people dipping into my funds or my resources. That's going to limit my ability to have freedom. So you guys have to speak up when some of this stuff is happening out in the world, or when some of this stuff is happening in your life. Because if we sit back and we wait until some of these conjunctions start happening to Saturn, right here, Sun, Saturn, around February 16th. Mercury, Saturn at 29, March 2nd. We're going to start getting wind that there is more limitation in society. There are things that are being held back and being kept from us. What that is, I don't know. I can only speculate looking at the chart. I'll tell you that the United States on this day is coming into, or maybe it's the day before, it's right around the time the US is having their third Mars return at the end of February. And I'm looking at this Mars return while Mercury is coming into conjunction with Saturn. Mars is going to come into a square with Neptune. See, many of us are about to find out that there is going to be more money that's being sent to Ukraine, or that there is going to be financial implications for going over the budget and for sending so much resources and support to other countries. We just don't see it yet. I hate to be like that, but that's kind of where this is going. So let's see what happens with the full moon. Let's take a look at how it's going to be affecting each and every one of the 12 signs. If you guys want to listen for your whole sign rising, you can. Obviously, like I said, this is Western. If you want to be listening for your progress chart, you can do that too. If you're a Placidus user, you want to be listening for 16 degrees of Leo. So look at where that degree is specifically per house in your chart. You may have to listen to two rising sign predictions. And I've had a couple people who have asked me, because I know some of you guys got my calendar, recommendations how to be able to work with the full moon. This is a full moon that is going to be, like I said, ruled by the sun. So you want to think of working with like yellow or gold. You can get candles. You can work with incense if that's what you want to work with. I really like, for this particular moon, something that's going to be more grounding. So if you want to work with crystals, I would say something similar to darker red grounding stones. So you can do like, I would say carnelian. You can do carnelian. You can also be working with like smoky quartz. You can work with citrine if that's something that you want to use. But I don't want to be doing anything that's going to like blow your third eye out, right? So fire, because this is a moon that's associated with the element of fire. A great time to make decisions that are more so heart-based. If you want to set intentions, or if you want to be reflecting on intentions and deciding what you're ready to suddenly kind of release and let go of, fire rituals can be really wonderful. If you want to write something down, throw it into a fireplace. That's a wonderful way to be able to work with this energy. But think gold and yellow and things that are bright. Because this is a full moon that's going to square Uranus, not my favorite type of transits to be trying to be like, yeah, I'm manifesting abundance or, you know, anything like that. I think this is more about we're setting intentions in regards to being very heart-centered, listening to that inner voice, and trying to kind of diffuse what can be some intense energies and staying grounded throughout the process. Let me know, how do you use this energy? But that's what I would do, taking a look at that. And if you guys want to check out my calendar, it's on sale. It's on my website. I've got a digital and a printed version. I give you the month by month, all of the transits in kind of going on throughout 2023. But I also give you guys crystal recommendations, incense, herbs, oils, ritual stuff, how to work with the energies at play. So check that out if that's stuff that you guys like. And let's go ahead and make this a whole sign rising chart so we can take it through all of the 12 signs for you guys. There we go. So we're going to start with Aries and Aries rising. A lot of what I've said for you, Aries, definitely resonates, I'm sure. So let's take a look here. So you got a full moon that's taking place in your 5th house, which is awfully fun, romantic, creative, right? That moon is the ruler of your 4th house of home and family. It also relates to the past. It can also be about your relationship with your family, with children, and your creative self-expression, perhaps within the home. Now, as the moon comes into opposition with the sun, this is interesting. It's definitely aligning with the past, your past creative projects, past creative home projects. Maybe it's about reconnecting with friends within the home. Great time for like personal launches, maybe even a couple days before, I would say, even this particular moon, especially because you have some nice sextiles between the moon and Mars, which is your ruling planet. So I could see you giving a presentation or launching something or sharing something that you're really passionate about with others. What I'm not fond of, and I will say this for every sign, is just the square to Uranus. Because yes, the 5th house is, oh my gosh, I'm pregnant. Oh my goodness, I love this thing. Oh my goodness, I'm, you know, launching this exciting new creative endeavor. But the hard angle to Uranus, and what it's telling me is that there can be some sense of you being like, I'm not feeling valued by other people, and I'm trying to, you know, contribute, but I'm not feeling like I'm getting a lot of give back from others. Watch out for, you know, resources, especially, you know, borrowing and lending with friends or with groups, getting any kind of investment recommendations from groups. Be careful whose advice that you buy with this particular full moon that's kind of setting up. For you, Aries, this is very financial. And I kind of feel like with the moon in opposition to the sun, you may have opposing perspectives on finances and investments than potentially somebody who's in your family. Definitely not a good time to be talking about money or politics with people in terms of family get-togethers. That can get a little intense there. But there can be positive manifestations of this. Like I said, it can be falling in love with something, completing a project, doing something fun, going out and having a good time. There can be a sense of you also feeling like you're willing to spend a little bit more for the sake of having fun, right? I could see for you doing that as well. Let's see what the cards say for you. Oof, I had a feeling. 5 of coins. So this is about being left out in the cold. Remember how I said that you were kind of not feeling the love, or that you didn't feel that you were being appreciated or that you were being valued by others? This can be coming up pretty strongly for you. This can be talking about being in a pinch financially. Something comes up and you're like, I'm gonna have to spend a little bit more on this, or I need some assistance, or who can jump in and kind of help me. That moon in opposition to the sun, I really feel like just be mindful that there can be a sense of like reaching out to others and not feeling like you're getting the support that you need. Even if you're, you know, swallowing your pride and putting it out there and being like, hey, can you help me, right? 5 of Pentacles is about finally moving on from that though. So just know once you get to the next card, It's moving out of a difficult time, but I would really say be careful with any major investments, transactions, any financial things with this transit, and the card is confirming that, okay? Good luck, my Aries. For Taurus and Taurus rising, this is definitely pretty active for you, Taurus. We have a full moon that's going to be taking place for you in the sign of Leo. It's in your natal 4th house, right here. So the moon is at home in the 4th house. That's the good thing, Taurus. So this can be bringing your attention specifically to your home base, something that's going on within your clan, with a roommate, with a partner you live with. Maybe you're selling a house, buying a house, completing a home project, something like that's going to be going down. Now, this is a little stressful, Taurus, because you are going to be experiencing the opposition, obviously, to other fixed placements. It's kind of funny because I think the action is taking place at home, like the event is taking place at home, which creates some challenges in regards to showing up in the world, showing up for work, being responsible, and it might send you into a little bit of a tailspin. So there's this sense of you being like, oh my goodness, I have to go home because there's something going on with my kid. I've got an alert, there's a fire alarm in my apartment, I gotta see what's going on. I mean, obviously we hope not, but you could see something like that happening that's pulling you out of your workspace. You get kind of frazzled and you're like, okay, here I go. Breathe. That's my recommendation, Taurus, breathe. You know, it's all about how you communicate. The moon is the ruler of communication. So I'm wondering, like, do you have to have a chat with a sibling? Do you have to talk to a roommate? Do you have to place a phone call and, you know, have a conversation with a family member about something that's going on with the family? Yes, it seems stressful, but I think that you will move through it. Keep in mind that as all these planets are moving through your 10th house, there's this sense of like, I can't stop the momentum with work. I can't slow down. I need to keep things rolling. And maybe that means that you need to call in a favor and you need to ask another family member if they can kind of fill in for you, if they can support you. So that way you're not feeling so frazzled and you can really show up the way that you need to be showing up out in the world at this moment. Let's see what the cards say for you. Two of coins. It's like I have too much on my plate. Yeah, but I think really what this is saying is that you may feel like you're between a rock and a hard place. Go back to what happened over the summer, Taurus. That's what I really want you to think about. What was happening in August? What were you going back and forth about? Do I do this? Do I not do this, right? Do I move? Do I not move? Do I, you know, focus on spending more time at home with my family, you know, and take a sidestep from work? Where were you feeling like you were being pulled from all different angles? There can be a sense of you kind of being able to navigate this and being able to do both. I have faith in you, but I would also say that there can be a sense of you taking on too much and not acknowledging that. There's a need for you to acknowledge that. There might be too many irons in the fire. Be careful because you might bring this on yourself, you know, with the squares. You are the focal point of this full moon. So it's basically saying it's all about how you respond to things. If you don't like something, you're the boss. You can change it, okay? Good luck, Taurus. Gemini and Gemini rising, we have got a full moon in Leo shaping up for you here. This is going to be in your 3rd house, which is all about communication and short distance travel, siblings, all that fun stuff. So a full moon in the 3rd house in relation to the 9th house can be education, communication, trips, documents, things like that, especially about money. The moon rules your 2nd house of money and resources, and it's in the 3rd, okay? So when you have a full moon in the 3rd house, it's like, I got to sign this document. I get an important email. I've got something going on with my car, you know, that type of stuff. Communication is extremely important. Seeing that this naturally is sextiling Mars along your ascendant, I think it's good because it's giving you an outlet for a lot of this like assertive energy that's starting to wake up. I would also say that the opposition that it's making to Sun and Saturn in your 9th house, you know, maybe you're deciding that you want to apply for a new program. Maybe you're submitting something to try to publish a book or try to complete a course. You might complete these things with the moon being in the 3rd house. The challenge that I'm seeing, okay, because this might have you on the road, is that it's going to square Uranus and it's going to make an opposition to the sun. So Uranus being in your 12th house makes me feel like you read a book, you go on a trip, you have a conversation, something that totally shifts your perspective. And it might rattle you a little bit. There can also be some really significant psychic activity going on, you know, precognitive dreams, having visions, things like that. Write it down right around the time of the full moon because it can be really helpful. There can be some symbols or something in that for you to decode. That's kind of the feeling that I'm getting. But for the most part, I mean, you have ways out. The Mars sextile, the moon is saying, I want to be active, or I want to be communicating, or I want to be traveling. And you've got support from planets in a sister sign of Aquarius that's coming into a trine with your ascendant if you are a Gemini rising. So even though this is a little turbulent, you can work with it, you know, use whatever is kind of taking place with this moon to give you an opportunity to stand up and communicate and really share how your philosophy is maybe changing. And if you have to launch a website, launch a project, if you're wanting to start a new YouTube channel, maybe you're starting to really see the effects of doing this work and now it's really picking up. That's another way I could look at it as well. Let's take a look and see what the cards have to say for you. Oh, I love that for you. Queen of Swords. So appropriate if you're Gemini, sun, moon, or rising. I think it's about really kind of becoming more so in tune with this energy. This is mastering the art of communication, intellect, sharing with other people. But this is about nurturing your ideas, nurturing what you've been working on, your perspective, and like being more open and emotionally aware of what needs to be said, where you need to go, what you need to share with other people. So it's a really good sign that you're kind of coming into that energy naturally, and that you have something really important that you might be writing or signing or talking about with other people, okay? Really nice for you, Gemini. We've got Cancer and Cancer rising, and you're going to be having a full moon in Leo in your natal second house. Obviously, full moons are important for you, right? Because you've got that as your chart ruler. Cancer, full moon in the second house is something really prominent in regards to your involvement with your money and your resources, okay? This is a big theme here. So when you have a full moon in the second house, there could be a substantial amount of money that comes or goes. Reason being is the second house is your resources and the eighth house is others. So you may be dealing with a back and forth in regards to your money versus another person. Okay, I'm noticing that the sun is in opposition, so I'm wondering, like, is there a sense of you needing to get paid so you can pay something off? Is there a sense of you thinking about taking out a loan or requesting some kind of support so that way you can like really break through and kind of get ahead? That's very possible. But it's a funky energy, right? Because we have this square to Uranus, and Uranus is your eighth house lord. So I'm kind of feeling like the themes of entanglement with other people is coming very, very strongly through this chart. Financially, karmically, energetically, romantically, there is some sense of there being some friction about what you value versus what other people value, and if you see things the same way. Be careful for situationships. I could see that being a theme. You have this impending, you know, Mercury-Pluto conjunction that's coming, which also makes me feel like there can be definitive conversations with managers, business partners, you know, romantic partners, husbands, wives, clients. That's like, this ain't working anymore, you know, or I just can't do this anymore, which can kind of send you into a bit of a tailspin and have you go, okay, well, how does that affect me and my security, right? Financially or emotionally. Finally, Saturn's getting ready to leave your eighth house. So I think this is a lesson about really cutting ties karmically from relationships that do not make you feel supported. And whether this is a working relationship, a friendship, or a romantic relationship, something like that is going on. But on the bright side, right, because this full moon is in a trine to, or a slight trine to planets that you have in Aries in the 10th, this breakdown, which it may be, is likely to lead to a breakthrough and like really getting clarity in regards to what you do have control over, you know, the money that you can make, the business that can grow. I think for a lot of you guys, you're just seeking support from people who are going to help you grow your resources. And it doesn't matter if that's a business partner or if that's a bank. You need a little bit more support so you can get ahead and start focusing on the work that you want to do, right? And so the square to Uranus, I think, is just be careful whose assistance you ask for is kind of the feeling that I'm getting looking at that. Let's see what the cards say for you. Page of Swords. Speaking up, but I think this is also about the beginning process of starting to kind of realize, like, sometimes you have to have difficult conversations, right? You have to have these difficult conversations. You will be one of the signs that I think is going to start feeling this early, about 2 days prior, right when the moon is coming into an opposition with Mercury and Pluto, where there can be this feeling like if you're not getting the response that you need from another person, you're going to be like, I'm not waiting for them. I'm going to be the one to kind of, you know, act swiftly and kind of pull the plug, or I'm going to be the one who's going to initiate the conversation so we can just get on with it. So that way you can focus on having more clarity and also more security. Okay. Good luck, Cancer. So now we have Leo and Leo rising. This is going to be an interesting one for you, Leo. We got a full moon that's in your sign. So think back to intentions really that you've been setting clear since summer last year, right around your birthday. When you have a full moon in your sign, it's about personal completion and fulfillment. So there can be a grand reveal in terms of who you are now, who you've become. I want you to think back over the last 2 years, just how much has changed for you, how you've redefined yourself, who you are now, outside of your relationships, outside of your career. A full moon in your sign is about you. What are you doing? Okay. It could be a great new outfit, a great, you know, haircut. I think it's more than that. I don't think it's that surface or superficial. I think it's about you sharing your private feelings and emotions with others. I think it's about learning to wear your heart on your sleeve. I think it's about realizing what you need in comparison to what work needs or what partners need for you. Pay attention to the emotions and the feelings that arise during the time of this full moon, because I feel like it can definitely show you where something with relationships or with work is out of whack, right? Especially because the moon will come through Leo. It will square the nodes before it gets into the full moon. It'll have the full moon in squares to Uranus. So this is about your emotions and your subconscious things kind of coming front and center, and you may feel more sensitive than usual. A full moon does represent this feeling of how you're behaving or what you're thinking or what's on your mind versus relationships or clients versus work. I think maybe it's a little overwhelming that you're just kind of like, wow, everything's changing. My career's changing. My potential partnerships out in the world are changing. And if you feel like, you know, you need time away from others, could be a friend because the sun's in Aquarius. If you're also feeling like you need space and you need to take a breather from the responsibilities at work, like, it would not surprise me during the time of this full moon. Being that this is going to be a full moon that's also going to conjunct Jupiter, it's about what you're learning about yourself and what you're learning about your journey. Can this represent a potential, you know, climax in a relationship? Yes, it can, because it's in opposition to the sun, and the sun's in the 7th house. It's telling me that there's a lot of action around relationships. Maybe there's been so much action in appeasing others. It doesn't matter if it's a client or a business relationship, if it's you just getting back to customers even, and feeling a little overwhelmed and being like, yeah, I need to take some time for me. You know what I'm saying? But this is going to be an interesting turning point because there's lots of room for self-reflection here soon when Saturn goes into your 7th house and Pluto starts coming into your 7th. You're going to realize that in order to do relationships, there has to be a balance. It can't be that you're all consumed by another person or you're all consumed by work, right? So look for that. See what the cards have to say for you. Eight of Cups. So this is what you're walking away from. But personally, I think that this is just looking at things and kind of going like, I'm having to move forward. Like your life is moving forward very quickly. I don't know how else to put this. It does not mean that this is a definitive moment in a relationship. I want to really reiterate that because You know, that typically for you is more so likely to happen over the summertime, while you're having, you know, a full moon in your 7th, and you're going to have a Venus retrograde that's going to be in opposition to that. So I don't get the impression right now. I think this is more about you going, I have no other choice but to move into the future and kind of accept new situations, new jobs, new experiences, new places, what have you. Because the moon is going to square the nodes, this is also going to be about you acting impulsively. So I think that you're going to have this impulse to be like, I can't be around this person. I can't continue this job. I can't continue this pattern. And you got to listen to that, because it's going to be your inner voice kind of letting you know, yes, it's time to move on, but that's only because there are new opportunities emerging. I got to tell you, with Jupiter going into your 10th house this year, with eclipses that are still going to be taking place in your 10th, it's really about how you're changing your public reputation, right? And so with that comes a need to really, really move into the future. Good luck, Leo. We have now got Virgo and Virgo rising, and you're going to be experiencing a full moon in Leo in your natal 12th house. Oh boy. You know, personally, you got a lot of action between the 6th and the 12th house. And it can kind of feel like there's this sense of like really needing to pay attention to either your physical or like your mental health, because that axis is getting hit. Now, the moon is connected to friends or your goals. And the moon is in opposition to the sun. So it can kind of represent like, okay, I'm kind of feeling a little under the weather. I feel like overworked and underpaid. It can also feel as if that you just really need a break and you need a rest from it all, especially if you've just been doing nothing but, you know, grinding it out at work or focusing on your habits and your patterns. I think a full moon in your 12, it does require a need for a private space to rest and recuperate, right? Like this is about having your alone time. But also this is going to be about really focusing on the ends of certain patterns that may be like self-undoing. So addictions, bad habits, you know, a tendency to kind of like set yourself up, right, for falling back into some of these trends. Can there be, you know, challenges at work with coworkers? Yeah, that can happen. Can there be a sense of being like, wow, I think a friendship is over or a relationship is ending? Yes, that can happen. Because the full moon is in Leo, which does deal with lovers, and it's in the 12th house, which can be where something goes to complete. Really, I'm looking at the squares to Uranus, and it's making me feel like there is some sense of something has to give with your schedule. Like there needs to be a shift that happens with either where you're working, how you're working, so it's making way and making more time for continuing education, for travel, for publishing, for studying, for sharing with others. And perhaps like this breakdown that happens, or taking time off, or, you know, just getting more rest, makes you really realize like, okay, I can't live a life of just feeling like it's just this monotonous like cycle. You know what I'm saying? Pretty soon you're going to have Mercury come into conjunction with Pluto. And I mean, that can be you realizing that there is a need to have a conversation and really share what's on your mind, but also like what's going on within your heart. So you can have a breakthrough and possibly make better decisions when it comes to relationships. Saturn will be in your 7th soon. Yes, this is uncomfortable in the 12th house. Don't get squirrely. Just take time to relax, ground your energy. Do something creative behind closed doors. So whether you want to watch movies or you want to do art and you want to paint or draw, that can be really helpful in really using some of your hidden talents, right? Leo in the 12th, to kind of decompress. All right, let's take a look. Ooh, High Priestess. You're taking time to really focus on your vision. You know, what I like about this card is it's about letting things come to you, your ability to reflect and kind of receive and kind of tune in. I like a full moon in the 12th to just kind of zen out and do some meditation, and also be more in touch with what your higher self is saying. But this is less about action, more about the information that you're receiving. Okay. Good luck. We've got Libra and Libra rising. How's it going, Libra? You're going to be having a full moon that's going to take place in Leo, and that will be in your natal 11th house if you're Libra rising. The moon is connected to your career, and the moon being in the 11th house, experiencing a full moon, does seem to suggest there is some focus and emphasis around completing projects with others. Also, you know, gains that may be coming from your business. It can also be parties, invitations, celebrations. I mean, it's a pretty fun house. And it might be also about professional networking, being asked to collaborate on a project, completing a collaboration project as well. Now, what's challenging about this is the fact that it's going to oppose the Sun and Saturn, which is in your 5th house of creativity, self-love, children. And it's going to come into a T-square with Uranus. So you're going to have this T-square. Uranus is going to be the focal point, even though you got a full moon in your 11th. The Uranian square for all of the signs is challenging. So it's not going to be, you know, better for any one sign than the other. But to me, Libra, this seems as if there is some sense of you really focusing on your goals, right? Whatever they may be. And wanting to share those goals with other people and talking to other people about what you're hoping to complete, and maybe even getting some feedback or some support from other people in regards to your personal pleasure projects, right? Your personal creative endeavors. A friend might give you advice about investing. Be careful what advice you take because of the squares to Uranus. It makes me feel like it can lead to some breakdown in terms of joint resources. You may also experience that there is a need for you to actually break out of this feeling of being isolated and focusing on yourself or focusing on your love life for your kids, spending more attention to, spending more of an effort in giving attention to your social group or your friends. The fact that it's going to square Uranus makes me feel like there can be also some turbulence in regards to like joint resources or how you're talking to a partner about affording something, having more fun. And yeah, just watch with the excess spending. That can be a thing because you got planets going through your 5th house right now where you want to play, you want to go out, you want to do things, you want to have a good time, and just something may not be resonating in terms of joint assets and needing to get on the same page. And a full moon taking place in the 11th house is also just, I think, you really finally starting to see the effects of having worked really hard on some of your own creative projects all year. Let's take a look at what these cards have to say for you, Libra. Page of Cups. Opportunities obviously for single Libras. You got planets in your 5th house really highlighting romance, but this can be talking about the seeds for new potential relationships, which is interesting. It can be romantic, I mean, but I would say you have to get out and be around other people. So you're going to have to be around friends or crowds. You're going to have to go out and do something. Look for water signs, right? Cancers or Scorpios or Pisces who can kind of help you through maybe kind of adjusting and getting back out there and doing something fun. Equally, this can also be talking about children or younger people that can come in as well, Libra. Good luck. We've got Scorpio and Scorpio rising. What's going on, Scorpio? This is going to be a colorful one for you, Scorpio, because you're going to be experiencing a grand fixed cross. So we've got a full moon that's coming in the sign of Leo. Actually, you know what? Let me roll back the clock because I don't want you to get confused here in terms of the time and the degree. There we go. Okay. Much better. So you're going to be having a full moon that's going to be taking place. It's going to be in Leo, which is your 10th house. Okay. This is public. This is big for you, Scorpio, Scorpio risings. The moon rules education or teaching or anything in regards to philosophy, travel, certifications, and it's in the 10th. So if you are somebody who's been wanting to complete a course, take a course, sell a course, you know, travel more, if you're wanting to focus also on integrating some of these themes into your professional life, that could be another way of looking at this. Full moons obviously are completions and it's like really big energy. So it's going to be in your 10th house of career. So it's not unusual to see job changes, getting new opportunities at work. Perhaps there's like a big meeting with a boss, something like that can take place. And it can also be like legal stuff, legal or travel stuff relating to work. Now, it's going to oppose the sun in your 4th, and you've got the sun and Saturn in your 4th house, and you're like landlocked. Look at how many planets are at the bottom of your chart. So there's a lot going on with like home, family, kids, health, career, like, but more schedule than being out in the world. So I think you're going to feel like the effects of being like, okay, I'm super kind of bogged down. What am I doing out in the world? Like, I need a little bit of pop when it comes to my career stuff. Presentations are good. Launches are good. The challenge that I'm seeing is that the moon is going to square your ascendant, Uranus, in the 7th, and it's going to oppose the sun in the 4th. So like I said, it's going to create a grand fixed cross, which is going to affect each and every one of these areas of your chart. When you have the square, it pushes the wheel to turn. So there's change in 4 different areas, and it's especially strong for you, especially if you're a Scorpio rising, or if you have any personal planets in Scorpio, if you're a Scorpio rising, because you're really going to feel the effects of the square. It will be a square. Anyway, it's very similar to what I said to Taurus. There's some similarities here of being pulled between 2 different directions. There is the responsibilities going on within home and family karma, and then there's what's going on in regards to your career. This is a time for you to focus a little bit more on your career. It may not be about home, it may not be about family as much right now. Now, the challenging aspect is that the full moon is going to square Uranus, which is telling me, okay, that there is going to be a challenge or a disruption either with a relationship or with home or family matter. So a lot of the drama or the things that are kind of going on in regards to your responsibility out in the world looks like it's possibly being challenged by a romantic partner, a client, a business partner. And I would say just really be patient. Don't be reactionary. Likely you're going to get some reactionary things from a partner if you are in a business relationship, or if you're married, or if you're committed, or you're living with someone. Equally, I could see like the moon coming into the opposition with the sun and Saturn is something not meshing right with family and family dynamics and responsibility in regards to family. So I know that sounds a little vague, but like just look back to what happened in July and August. What was happening around that time? Where was there some tension perhaps in a relationship or with family or a living situation? You're going to see some similarities come through. It's going to be brief, but still, nevertheless, it is kind of reinforcing what you've been going through for 2 years, where there's been lots of need to change the home and also upgrade your relationships. Something about your status in the world might change too. All right, so let's see what the cards say for you, Scorpio. Oh, thank God. Ace of Cups. So honestly, this is a good card. New opportunities, emotional connections, emotional renewal, opportunity for new relationships. I mean, many Scorpio risings who are single, you won't really see this start to open up more, possibly until like Venus conjuncts Neptune, where we see Jupiter get into your 7th house in May. So there's relationships on the horizon. I know I keep saying that, but you'll see it. But this is talking about what you love. So in a sense of the 10th house, it's like you're willing to do the work for what you love. If it's your job, great. If it's your family, great. If it's your partner, awesome. But really focusing on what you love and letting that be what leads the way, even though you're going to feel kind of like pulled in different directions during the time of this full moon, okay? Hang in there, Scorpio. We have Sag and Sag rising. This will be a full moon that you're going to be having in Leo, which is a sister sign. So especially I like Sag rising. Sag rising, I mean, I like what it's doing for all the Aries and Sag placements, but the fact that you're going to get a nice little fire trine here is definitely going to be a nice pop. It's going to help diffuse from some of the squares. So when you have a full moon in the 9th house, we are completing something, okay? It can be booking a trip, going on a trip, completing a program. It can be hiring an attorney, deciding you're going to publish something. The moon is the ruler of your 8th house. And so I think that this is about your philosophy on renewal and change and transformation and how you look at it shifting. Yes, you may have to be filing some tax documents. Yes, you may have to be, talking to somebody and getting some assistance through this process. Maybe you're looking for legal counsel. Maybe you're looking to incorporate and start something. That's another way to look at it. You got the moon and the sun in opposition with every full moon, and it will be squaring Uranus in your 6th house. So this tells me that there's going to be changes to your schedule. It's about how you're communicating the fact that your schedule is going to be changing with other people. You may experience some travel issues, hiccups, or delays. You are also more predisposed to having just some unexpected scheduling changes. Please, my Sag risings, also be careful when you're driving, like the sun in the 3rd house coming in the square with Uranus, and then the opposition to the moon here makes me feel like you're looking at if there is an accident or if there is something that goes on at work, that there's a need to like file something or talk to somebody legally or file a document, write on a document. And so that seems a little agitating. The good news is though, is you have the moon that's in a trine to Jupiter in your 5th house. So maybe it's that you guys are like, hey, I wrote this book. I'm trying to do something creative. I need to get it published, right? That's the way out. But be careful with your words and also travel, because there can be some hiccups here. I'm not wild about the squares to your 6th house because to me, it seems like just with the Saturn transit alone, there's been this sense of being like, okay, it's about how I'm communicating or how my mind is adjusting to an ever-changing schedule. And it's like stress in regards to that, So watch for that, Sag. Personally, I think that it can be positive for you. I really feel like maybe it's a matter of being like, you do need a trip to break things up a little bit, or you do need to go out there and have a little bit of fun so it doesn't feel like it's just day in and day out and you're not feeling like you're having to recover from just grinding through your schedule, right? Let's see what the cards say for you. 5 of Wands. I see this as like a little bit of like finding it challenging to get through a situation, or there being a bit of like conflict or a little bit of like sparring. The square to the 6th house makes me wonder, are you fighting with a health issue? Or are you fighting with some mental challenges and kind of wrapping your head around making these changes? Is there some actual conflict with somebody, somebody who's just kind of like disturbing the peace at work? Is there a sibling that is coming in and making it difficult for you to plan? There may be something going on there in terms of just not seeing eye to eye with like with a sibling or a relative, and that it's kind of disrupting your schedule or disrupting your peace. Remember with the 5 of Wands that it's important to not get involved in these combative situations because tempers can flare and there can be a sense of you not being able to kind of calm things down. So when you see that the conflict comes up, try to talk through it. And also Sun, Saturn in your 3rd house just says, breathe, just take a breath. Good luck. We have got for Capricorn and Cap rising, a moon in Leo. It will be a full moon in Leo that's coming in on the 5th. In your natal 8th house. Ooh, so this is about change, transformation, possibly of relationships. It can also be a lot about joint resources. Now, the moon rules relationships, landed in the 2nd of joint resources. The full moon will make an opposition to your sun. There is like what you have and what other people may want. Literally, I've talked to a few Capricorn risings, the money that you need versus the salary that they want to pay, the money that you won or inherited versus the money that other people might be requesting. I've heard that a lot actually for Capricorn risings who have been going through like estate issues or inheritance issues. That is very 8th house, okay? So when you have a full moon in the 8th house, we're dealing with, death, sex, taxes, sure. But I see this as more changes that are taking place in regards to your joint assets. And to me, this seems actually quite positive. It's like maybe you've been working through something and you've been waiting to get paid and you finally get paid out. Maybe there has been a bit of a back and forth as to whether or not you're going to get something covered by your insurance, and then you find out it is. Financial houses, right? And then you've got Sun and Saturn coming into conjunction in the 2nd, which makes me feel like you're going to go, no, this is mine, or I'm really in alignment with my self-esteem. I know my worth. I'm not going to take a step back. Now, interesting transits, because when you have a full moon, usually in your second or in your 8th house, there is this theme of money in, money out. So you may experience both. You might have money come in, but then you realize, you know what, I have to like pay something off when the sun comes into conjunction with Saturn. Or what is it going to cost me to be able to actually settle this out? We will see the moon in a square with Uranus. So Uranus will be the focal point within this particular full moon. But it's happening in your 5th house, which is about creativity and chances and things you win. Capricorn, I feel like even though something seems challenging, like you come out on top. I feel like if you stand up and say, no, you know, I'm not going to pay this, like, you know, I feel entitled to that, you might be granted some kind of refund or some kind of support, or you're going to kind of, you know, get somebody who's going to agree with you, and maybe they might waive a charge. Equally, I look at this and I'm like, not a bad time to be playing the lottery. Because the squares taking place to Uranus in the North Node in the 5th can be sudden strokes of good luck. But it can also be that something that you put out there that you've created pays off and you're like, wow, this is much better than I anticipated it was going to go. Be careful, big risk, big reward, yeah, but this isn't quite some of the perfect aspects. You know, I would like to see this possibly involve more aspects between like a Jupiter and a Venus. So you'll see more of this coming in the spring. So realize that you might have a nice little increase here, but it may also be a situation where it's like it's nothing to write home about, right? The other way that I could look at this is that this is about creative projects and what you're investing in them. And if you're seeking a loan or some support or looking to pay something off, you could do that. And it can be having to talk with a joint partner, business partner, or a romantic partner about, you know, what you're spending on having fun, or insurance related issues, especially relating to those of you guys who are self-employed, or just the cost and the overall expenses potentially of a child with Uranus in the 5th house. So it's just like, how do we manage these expenses? All right, so let's see what the cards say for you. Wow, 8 of Wands. This is about things happening very quickly, being on the move. Suddenly the energy changes and you have the opportunity to kind of bring in a chance opportunity. I think it's lucky. I think for you, it's more so lucky than it is for a lot of the other signs. But I also feel like there is a give and take. So when the 8 of Wands comes up, it's saying you're quickly moving into another direction. And there may be a chance opportunity to make money. There may be a chance opportunity to have a payoff. But you're going to have to look for that window of opportunity and don't miss it. Okay, that's what's really important with the 8 of Wands, is like rise to the occasion and do it when the opportunity presents itself. You're going to have to think quickly and swiftly. Good luck. We've got Aquarius and Aquarius rising. We're going to have a full moon that's going to be in Leo. And this will be in your 7th house, so it's your opposite sign. So it's about relationships and partnerships, other people, right? So it's interesting. Moon rules your 6th house of health, wellness, but also sometimes accidents and delays. And you're going to have the moon in opposition to the sun and also Saturn in your sign. So this will be a period where there's a lot of reflecting on you and others. The full moon brings completion in the 7th house. So what are you completing? Are you sealing the deal on a contract? Are you bringing in a new business partner? Are you deciding that you're committing in a relationship? Have things been a little rocky, especially on the home front? That's the question that I have for you, Aquarius risings. Listen, if a relationship's been on the rocks, a full moon in the 7th house will only amplify that, right? It doesn't have to be an ending. What I'm concerned about is that you got the moon in opposition to the sun. So it's more about other people, I think, airing out their grievances with you rather than you being like, I'm good. I also feel like as the sun approaches Saturn, you're going to be really adamant about the need for space or the need for peace or the need to really, communicate your boundaries. That's basically what's kind of coming up for you. There can be big things going on that you have no control over that deals with other people. And the moon will form a T-square to Uranus. So as I've said for other signs, yes, it's a full moon in Leo, but we have to look at the sun, and the sun is in your sign coming into conjunction with Saturn, square Uranus. So partners might be like, I don't like the fact that you're closed off, or I don't like the fact that you're, you know, all of a sudden needing space, and that, you know, you're kind of acting differently. You're standing up for yourself, especially when it comes to home and family related things. So there can be some friction. This is very active for Aquarius the more that I look at it, just considering the fact that the sun is your 7th house lord and it's in your 1st house coming into conjunction with Saturn. So you need to be prepared that if you're suddenly changing the rules of the game in a relationship, a partner may not like that. Equally, some of the conflict that could arise can be a result of things that are going on within the home or the family. So if you are, you know, like remarried and you've got, like, you know, stepchildren, there could be some weirdness going on in the family, because I could see Uranus being stepkids. There can also be a sense of there being a little bit of like back and forth about a family situation, a living situation, a home situation. And you have to air some of that out when the moon goes into the 7th house and it has a full moon. So can be children too. It can be finally kind of putting your foot down with a adult child and being like, you know, this is causing a lot of stress in the home and the family, or, you know, maybe it's time for you to move on or for me to move on. Something like that can be coming up as well. And it's so incredibly important that you're paying attention to what's happening during this full moon, because it's basically going to square your chart ruler. So it's going to be whether or not you liberate yourself out of this situation or not. It should make sense what I'm saying to you, because there's been this friction that's been going on over the last 2 years with the Saturn-Uranus square. And finally, the full moon is possibly like a relationship or a partnership coming in that's really highlighting it's time to make this change. Let's see what the cards say for you. Ooh, I like it. 10 of coins. Long-standing changes, making decisions long-term for the health or the wealth of your home and your family, which is ironic because it's in the 10th house. Excuse me, it's in the 7th house, not the 10th house, the 7th. And so maybe this is like being like, you know, this is a relationship that I want to be in for the long haul. This is somebody I really value. I don't want to let them go. So I'm willing to make this change. It can also be saying that there's positive events that will follow, even though this looks like there's a little bit of friction. In regards to, you know, career developments, maybe you do realize, you know what, my partner needs to move for work and I don't know if I want to do it. It's a huge change, but, you know, they're going to have a higher salary, right? That could be what comes up. Equally, it can mean that you bring in like a very lucrative partnership or relationship at this time that can really lead to you having some long-term success and putting more money in the bank. So at the end of this, there's something positive. And you may still feel uncomfortable with Saturn in your sign, but I kind of feel inclined to tell you, like, get used to it, because Pluto's going to be there soon. So when Pluto moves into your sign, you're really focusing on change and transformation and personal power. So perhaps maybe there is a sense of standing up to family or the past and redefining yourself, and a partner encourages you to do this. Good luck. We've got Pisces and Pisces rising. Full moon in Leo in your natal 6th house. 6th house, health, wellness, pets, coworkers, office spaces, daily routines, all of life's little annoyances, right? Full moon in the 6th house is definitely a time to watch your health, okay? So it is about health, it is about your schedule. And the fact that it's ruled by the moon, which is connecting to the 5th house, is I feel like you're really trying to focus on creating time and ensuring that you're making time for creative projects, right, within your schedule. Can it be about the health of a child? Sure. Can it be about whether or not a creative project is on track? Yes, it can. Now the moon will be in opposition to the sun, which it is every single time we have a full moon. And in your astrology, the sun is also the ruler of the 6th house. So there is something going on about how physical health and routine affects, you know, mental health, or, you know, your private kind of sense of self. I really feel inclined to tell you that having time away and being able to meditate, rest, and recuperate is so important, because you got the sun going through your 12th house, you're in preparation for your birthday, and the sun is coming into conjunction with Saturn here pretty soon. So there is a need to be like, okay, I need to kind of shake my schedule up a little bit, right? Now, what's challenging about this is that you're also seeing Because the moon in the 6th house can also be talking about unexpected changes going on with relationships. Maybe that you're kind of like at a crossroads in a relationship, or there's a big question mark about relationships, and you're like, okay, is this going to work out? Is it ending? And it's going to square Uranus. So it's whether or not you reach out and you communicate with these people. It can also be whether or not, you know, you're kind of mentally frazzled and questioning, you know, something that's changing in regards to your daily routine. There can be some unexpected hiccups or issues with technology or gadgets, or perhaps even a vehicle, okay? Uranus in your 3rd, especially when it comes to like electrical things or you know, things that have like fuses or what have you. Communication overload can be another theme, that you're just overwhelmed with either what you're reading or what you're thinking about, and it's kind of sending you into a little bit of a tizzy, and you're just like, I need to unplug, I need to disconnect. I think that's a really good idea. Reading and meditating might be the solution, because Uranus rules your 12th house, and Uranus is the focal point of this square. So I'm wondering, like, can you find a quiet place where you can curl up and read a good book? Can you meditate? Can you listen to some books on tape? Something that's going to just give you a little bit of an opportunity to have some privacy and decompress, right? Saturn's going into your sign soon. So this is also where you're going to start focusing more on getting serious about your goals. So in a way, there can be a lot of work that you're needing to do behind the scenes to kind of redefine yourself as we get into March and April of this next year. And Saturn will be in Pisces for 2.5 years. So this is just the beginning process of Saturn entering into your sign. The one thing I do like, though, that I will say is that at the very least, you have Saturn and the Sun in your 12th house, and it's slightly trining Mars, which is saying it's okay to release and heal and let things go. Use this moment as an opportunity for solitude and really changing the way that you look at endings or privacy or your home life. And that's going to help you kind of move through this. So maybe you're just stressed out and communicating some of the changes that are coming. It's kind of the vibe that I'm getting. 7 of Swords. Well, I mean, you got the square from Uranus in the 3rd. It's like doubting yourself, not trusting yourself, you know, feeling like something is off, questioning whether or not you can trust something, right? The 7 of Swords can be about dishonesty or manipulation or something that's been concealed. So I'm wondering if the square with Uranus is like, you know, possibly getting out of your own way. The fact that you're going to, maybe worst case scenario, maybe you're finding it hard to believe that you can overcome certain challenges or that you can break out of old patterns. I think that's part of it. But also, I mean, Uranus is what's shocking, right? So there can be unexpected, sudden conversations that are taking place. Keep in mind, Mercury-Pluto is coming in conjunction, okay? Mercury rules others, and it also rules family. So are you going to have shocking conversations with relatives, with friends, with romantic partners, realizing that something there is coming to an end? Maybe. Maybe it's insight that you get. And then after talking to somebody about it, you get kind of like wound up and you're like, I don't know what to think. Just breathe. That's the best advice I can give you. And realize that walking, journaling, grounding your energy can be really helpful in learning whether or not it's stress and anxiety, or if it's your intuition that's kicking and telling you that something is off. Okay? So that's pretty much it for the full moon. You guys are going to have to come back and let me know what happens. Like I said, you're going to start feeling it about the 3rd. And it'll be clear until about the 6th that this is going to be kind of hanging out, because literally hours after this full moon is complete. Let me put this in 0 Aries. There we go. We're going to see, going into the next day, the moon will oppose Saturn. So there definitely is some sense of, okay, I made a decision. I was at a crossroads. I disconnected from this. You guys will be feeling this the morning of the 6th, okay? Let me know. Obviously, I'm always curious to hear how this plays out for everybody. And I will follow up and let you know how it's affected me too, because it's all opposed my sun and squaring my Pluto. So we'll see how that happens. And if you guys like my content, like I said, don't forget to give me a thumbs up. You can share this. You can give me a comment. Let me know where you're tuning in from. Make sure that you're subscribed. consider joining my memberships, or you can also catch me on Friday nights if you guys want to get a reading. I always post that in the community tab a couple days prior, so I'll put that out for you a little bit later this week. If you want to book a reading with me, you like my style, click on my links below. You can go to my website at beyondtheveiledtarot.com. You can see my availability starting in April. That's when I have openings, and you can also see some of my courses and other stuff that I've got going on. Until next time, I will see all of you guys very soon. Have a very happy and electrifying full moon in Leo. Take care.